Namaste. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my NPTEL course on interior design. Last time we started our discussions focusing on green interiors, and I'm going to continue with the same. And we are going to discuss, different dimensions, different aspects, different attributes which come within the purview of green interiors. So today we are going to talk about green interiors, especially focusing on the attributes which are IAQ, IEQ, and furniture. So we talked about IAQ, IEQ, in an overview manner, and what is the importance of attaining a certain indoor air quality and indoor environment quality, which is important for health and well-being for the users when they inhabit an interior space. So broadly speaking, the contents for today are materials and VOCs. So these are volatile organic compounds, like we just came across this term last time. The permissible limits, the minimum air quality requirements, green products rating, especially standards for furniture, and some references. So when we talk about materials and VOCs, let us look at the IEQ credit 4, which focuses on using low emitting materials. So use materials having low VOCs, and for all of these, which are very, very handy when we talk about interior architecture projects. So whether it's paints and coatings, adhesives, sealants, flooring system that we are, designing and executing, composite wood, laminate adhesives, system furniture, seating. So for all of these, we must try to utilize materials which have low volatile organic compounds, which is VOC. Now, the concerns with the VOC are also in place, and we have to keep in our mind, how to mitigate them or how to take care of them. So, paints contain solvents which contain the VOCs. VOCs readily vaporize into the air. They react with sunlight and nitrogen oxides. They form ground level ozone, which causes air pollution and also health ill effects. Oil based paints are high in VOCs, whereas the water based paints are low in VOCs, or they may not have any VOCs at all. So we have to be responsible and make our selection and choices accordingly. Some of the references and products that we see in the market, whether it's paints and coatings or some kinds of adhesives and sealants that we come across in the market, some of these are put over here. And we discussed about LEED CI, what is LEED Commercial Interiors, and why it is so important. Why are we talking about it during this course for pedagogy and practice related to interior design as a discipline, or interior architecture as a larger umbrella. So referring to the LEED CI, we can come across these VOC limits. So if we look at different kinds of applications, whether it's architectural applications or some kind of specialty applications, whether they are, substrate specific applications that you see here in this column and table, the sealant primers or sealants. For all of these applications, based on, the category or the kind of this classification that we see over here, the VOC limit, this has been calculated and it is already a standard practice, and there are prescribed units for that. And we could come across values as low as 30 for the case of metal to metal substrate specific applications. It could also be up to 850, for specialty applications such as this case, the sheet applied rubber lining operations. So these are some of the handy references, and they are very useful when we have to keep a check on the VOC limits. Now, when we talk about the IEQ prerequisite number 1, it emphasizes on minimum IAQ performance. And there are two cases that we can, look at. So the first is the mechanically ventilated spaces, and they must comply with ASHRAE standard 62.1, section 4 to 7. Now, I'm trying to put this information together. A few amongst us may already be aware of these, standards, codes, practices, rating systems. But there may be a lot more who are probably not aware of these. So it's a very, very vast course. It's very difficult to explain each and every section and each and every case scenario and code. But broadly speaking, and what is the most important and crucial, the aspects which are most important and crucial that I'm just trying to discuss over here. Then there is case two, which is for, let's say naturally ventilated spaces, and the compliance has to be achieved with the ASHRAE 62.1 and the section 5.1. So these are very important documents and references which can help us achieve green ratings for our interior spaces, and it can ensure health and well-being for the users. So when we talk about minimum fresh air requirement, ideally we are talking about outdoor airflow required in the breathing zone of the occupied spaces. And there are also ways to calculate in terms of equations and mathematical formulae. So I'm not going to discuss that in detail, but we have those in place already. So if we have to understand minimum fresh air requirement, and let's say through this table which helps us understand the minimum ventilation rates in breathing zone, we can try to read this table and understand broadly. So let's say there are these occupancy categories, and there are some correctional facilities such as cell, day room, guard stations, waiting or booking areas. Then there are educational facilities such as daycare. Even the age bracket is also sort of identified and defined here. So age 4, classrooms ages 5 to 8, classrooms for ages 9 plus, lecture classrooms, lecture halls, art classrooms, science laboratories. So, for all of these facilities and for all of these different occupancy categories, there are ways to calculate and, have this kind of a reference and understand what would be the minimum ventilation rates in breathing zone and what are the minimum fresh air requirements. So again, when we try to work on interior architecture projects and when we are a part of industry and when we are working on ground, it's very important to understand these technical aspects, to discuss with the entire team, to have your experts in place, to be aware of these kinds of benchmark numbers and base numbers, and be aware like how to make healthy and uh, interesting spaces but which are not doing much harm to the environment. So again, like let's say if you have to calculate the minimum fresh air requirement, and we are talking about some heat load calculations, we also have some AHU in mind, the air handling units. And if we are talking about the case of a discussion area, so we can make these kinds of inventories and put these parameters and data in that table and try to understand and calculate. So the temperature in Fahrenheit is 73, relative humidity, then there is energy, and then occupancy area and flow of air, all of that data, and then we come up with some kinds of these numbers which indicate and help us understand what are the minimum fresh air requirements. Now again, IEQ credit 2, and it talks about increased ventilation. Now the intent behind is to provide additional air ventilation for improved occupant comfort, well-being and productivity, and provide enough fresh air to exceed the ASHRAE standard 62 by 30%. So this is the intent. And there are also green rating for furniture, and it's very, very important because furniture forms a very important, crucial and significant part of interior architecture products. So when we talk about furniture, let's say non-wood category, again there is green product rating, credit and point distribution system in place, which is very, very systematic and has its own structure. So there are credits, there is the criteria, and there are associated credit points. So there are also orders such as product design, product performance, raw material, and green supply management. And there are more. As we go to the next slides, we will see that. So credit 1.1 talks about, within the order of product design, it talks about eco-vision, strategies adopted, resource allocation, implemented measures, impacts, all of that. And for these different points under the, credit 1.1, within the umbrella of product design, there are credit points which are given. And there are subtotals for each of these orders. Same way for product performance, there are some mandatory requirements, and credit 2.1 emphasizes on all of these, and the subtotal is 30. For raw material and green supply chain management, again, some mandatory requirements, and credit 3.1 and 3.2, and which talk about important aspects, like use of recycled material, etc. And there is also, the green procurement guidelines for industry. They also have some points. Then there is also an important order which is manufacturing process, and within that we have credit 4.1 for energy efficiency, 4.2 for water efficiency, 4.3 for renewable energy, and then we have all these credit points associated with it. And we are still talking about non-wood furniture here. There is also emphasis on waste management. The sixth important point is the life cycle approach, and there are sub-parameters and credit points associated to that. We are also talking about product stewardship and innovation, and they also have important credits. Credit 7.1, 7.2. This emphasizes on education, community outreach, and engagement. 7.2, extended producer responsibility. And of course, there is credit 8.1, which talks about innovations. So these are all very important discussions that we are having today, and it makes a total of 100 points in this entire tally. We also have the green product rating, credits and points distribution for furniture, and we are talking about wood specifically. And like you see over here, again, for product design, product performance, raw material, green supply chain management, and then the manufacturing process, where we talked about energy efficiency, water efficiency, renewable energy. We again have points and subpoints, and then we have associated credit points, which go with all of these. Then, of course, the waste management, life cycle approach, product stewardship, that also has sort of parameters listed underneath each order or each classification, and then the points associated with it. And again, innovation. So, for all of these wood, non wood furniture, we have this kind of inventory and reference points in place. Continuing further, with rating standard for furniture, both non-wood and wood. To understand each of these orders in detail, the 7 points that we were seeing in the tables, a few slides ago, starting with the product design. So the intention or the intent behind product design is to design the product holistically, considering all the environmental attributes, where we are trying to minimize associated impacts. So we did see credit 1.1, which, is part of product design, and it talks about very, very important aspects, eco-vision statement, and, design stage of the product, manufacturing stage of the product, all of those in detail. Then there is product performance, and here we would see the mention of credit 2.1, minimize air contaminants concentration. And the intent is to reduce exposure to chemicals, contaminants from furniture during use, which cause severe impacts on health of the occupants. Continuing with the product performance, there are some mandatory requirements. So test the following as per specific standards. So formaldehyde, TVOC or total volatile organic compounds, total aldehydes, and then there is phenyl cyclohexene. So there is air chamber test or perforation methods. We could use them, for testing the above parameters. And we have to, of course, achieve a certain product performance based on these standards that have been set. Now, as per the IGBC, the Indian Green Building Council, the emission limits for the identified contaminants are also given for us to refer to. And we see these, the four that we saw on the previous slide. And for a system furniture or for seating, these are the different kinds of values or readings that you see. And again, this table, here we are talking about product performance and we are talking about credit 2.1, and it talks about all these parameters and associated credit points. Now, third one is the raw materials, and here also we will see non-wood and wood furniture. So for non-wood furniture, the credit 3.1, and it concentrates on recycled material. The intent is to reduce virgin material consumption by increasing the recycled content at the time of manufacturing. And we see this credit mentioned for the non-wood furniture. These are the parameters and these are the credit points that we try to achieve and refer to and see what could be the closest that we could come to. So again, for the raw materials and for the non-wood furniture, talking about credit 3.1 still, which is recycled materials, there is a mandatory requirement: use minimum 5% of total weight of recycled material on weighted average basis of furniture. So there is a standard practice and there is a reference, and we try to achieve that. For wood furniture now, credit 3.1, use of rapidly renewable or recycled material. The intent is encourage the use of rapidly renewable materials in furniture to reduce deforestation. Rapidly renewing materials are agricultural products that take 10 years or less to harvest. That's very, very important. And during the lecture on wood and timber, also we talked about ecologically grown timber and the time it takes to get replenished, etc. So this credit emphasizes on this aspect. Again, continuing with credit 3.1 for the wood furniture, there is a mandatory requirement: wood for furniture production to be sourced from legal and verifiable source. That's very, very important. And this is the credit that you see over here and the associated points. Then there is manufacturing process, and we are talking about energy efficiency, credit 4.1. And the intent is enhance energy efficiency in the manufacturing process of the product to reduce the environmental impacts. And these are the associated credit points. Now for water efficiency, we have credit 4.2, and the intent is incorporate water efficiency measures in the manufacturing process to reduce potable water consumption. And of course, implement measures to benefit the society at large. And these are the credit points which are associated. Then we have renewable power, and there is credit 4.3. The intent is encourage the use of on-site and off-site renewable energy sources to reduce the dependence on fossil fuels and their associated environmental impacts. This is credit 4.3. These are the criteria, and this is the tally of credit points associated with each criteria under manufacturing process. Then the waste management, and it's very, very important, to manage waste. The intent is to ensure that the solid, liquid, and gaseous waste discharged from the plant comply with all local regulations. And the mandatory requirement is compliance to local regulations on all three kinds of waste discharged from the manufacturing location. Credit 5.1 specifically talks about waste utilization and disposal. And the intent is encourage appropriate handling, create wealth out of waste, or proper disposal of waste generated during manufacturing. Now, this is non-wood furniture, and we are talking about waste utilization and disposal, and we have credit 5.1 and credit 5.2. And it talks about recyclable waste here in 5.1 and non-recyclable waste in 5.2. And these this is the column for the criteria, and these are the credit points. For wood furniture, we are talking about credit 5.1, and we are talking about waste utilization and disposal, and we are talking about wood waste. For 5.2, we are talking about non wood, and we have these important criteria: greater than 5% reduction in waste going to landfill, greater than 15% reduction in waste going to landfill, and the associated credit points. Life cycle approach, credit 6.1, it talks about the life cycle analysis, and the intent is identify environmental impact at every stage of the life cycle of the product and initiate measures to reduce such impacts. It is very, very, very crucial to take into account the environmental impact assessment of the projects that we work on, or of the products that we design, and behave as responsible designers and responsible citizens and responsible humans. So this entire module on green interiors will sensitize us hopefully towards all these important aspects. Continuing with the sixth point, which is the life cycle approach, and talking about the life cycle analysis. Here again, if we look at credit 6.1, it has this criteria and it has the credit points associated with it. You know, 2% impact reduction, 10% impact reduction, etc. So that's very, very important aspect. We also saw and listed in that table the product stewardship. And within that, credit 7.1 focuses on education. Educate those involved in handling the product at every stage post dispatch to reap the intended environmental benefits. So, education always comes, you know, as an important uh, factor, and we need to educate not just trained architects and students and people in the industry, but in the entire value chain, whosoever is involved, whether educated or somebody who is other than educated and who have skills and who are a part of this value chain, they must be aware of these important aspects, and we have to collectively try to reduce the environmental damage. Then we were talking about education, and this is the table, and this is how it looks like, and the associated credit points. There is also credit 7.2, and it talks about the extended producer responsibility. The intent is to establish a system for take back of recycling of products at the end of life and packaging materials after use. So these are some important criteria and the associated credit points for 7.2 product stewardship. Now we are talking about point number 8, which is innovation. It is very, very crucial to focus upon. We are in 2025 and we are talking about innovation in every aspect of way of life, the way we think, we design, we produce, we consume. So it's very important to focus on that. And credit 8.1 emphasizes on product innovation, and the intent is to establish innovative measures and target product innovation. And there are criteria and the credit points for innovation, and there is a discussion over innovative measure implemented at any stage of life cycle and how it gains credit points. And there are some other interesting credentials and accolades which will also help us achieve certain credit points. So these are like really important 8 orders or 8 important dimensions, which we just saw, and then we concluded with innovation. So I always like to put an interesting quote, and we have been talking about sustainability, we have been talking about health, well-being, we have been talking about interior spaces, rating systems, certain credit points, criteria, how to achieve good health, well-being, and sustainability, through responsible design of interior spaces. So healthy is the new sustainable is what is being coated. So the next lecture will focus on green interiors. Again, we are still talking about green interiors, and we will showcase physics of light and chemistry of colors, which I find a very, very fascinating and interesting topic of discussion. Some of the references, as always, and there are also references on each slide. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.